Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video I am bringing you another Gran Turismo 7's buyer's guide. But before we get into this video, don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe and turn on the notifications to help support the channel. I honestly am so grateful for those of you that tune in each and every day to kind of watch what's happening in the world of Gran Turismo 7. So with all that being said, this is the absolutely legendary American muscle icon, the Dodge Challenger RT. What can I say really? Famous for many things, appeared in, movies, games over the years, and it's just kind of been put on a pedestal of absolute legendary status. So this car costs over 300k from the legendary dealership. It is not currently in there or available, but I believe you can also have a chance to win this through the cafe menus in Korea. I believe that's actually how I got mine, so just keep your eyes peeled and it will eventually return, or you may already have one and it may kind of be sat in the garage collecting dust. But maybe after watching this video you might get a bit of inspiration and want to give it a try, give it a few races, and kind of use it for what it is, and a legendary American muscle icon. And in my opinion, this and the Charger at the time are just two of the coolest cars to ever come out of the United States. So you know how this works. We take the stock version, no upgrades, no tuning, and we hit the Nordschleife and try and see what lap times we can get. As you can see, the car itself looks very, I guess planted compared to a lot of the American cars of the time, which love to spit the rear end out. This car just seemed to, I don't know, I guess work well with the track. That old school suspension, the old school styling, everything about it just kind of looks at home on the track, and you wouldn't really think it with it being such an old American car. A lot of people just assume these things go in straight lines and nothing more, but during this lap I actually had a whole heap of fun and found the car very usable. So before we go anywhere, let's get into the negatives first. 4-speed manual transmission, absolutely awful. I hate it. It just limits the car in its standard form, but don't you worry, we will go on to, I guess, rectify the problem and sort that out later on in the video, which you will see, because obviously I've changed up the format of these buyer's guides. So obviously the 4-speed transmission is a bit of an issue for its top speed. It tops out around about 120. If you're going downhill, you'll get around about 125 to 130 miles an hour. I guess it kind of helps in the way it drives, because you spend a lot less time kind of correcting yourself, because you're not going at these absolutely insane speeds. And it's kind of I guess in a way a cool thing to see just how much cars have changed over the years. You are going to, I guess, compare this to something like the Camaro, or some old Ford Mustang, along those lines of how's it going to compare. Well, this is the first of the bunch. The rest of the classics are yet to come, but they will be getting reviewed at some point when we can, I guess, have a deeper look and compare them with this car. But I guess for a first impressions and a completely standard Dodge Challenger, it feels very good. Like I said, it actually took me by surprise just how drivable it is. And yes, it isn't the fastest thing in the world. However, the acceleration, very aggressive, and I absolutely love the way this thing takes off. Handling wise, yes, it's a little bit, I guess, rolly and bouncy. Obviously it's an old school suspension system. It's nothing modern. It doesn't feel planted. It leans around a lot under braking. It leans around on the corners, but it kind of adds to the character. It's definitely got that old school feel to it, and I feel like that's very kind of gone over to Gran Turismo 7 in a very good way. It feels like it actually should. Now, you play a lot of racing games and these old school cars will actually feel, like they're just constantly kicking the back end out. The most sort of plain feeling steering, handling there is to it. However, in Gran Turismo 7, it does feel very good, and I'm going to assume if you were to drive one of these things from standard and I guess roll it through some back roads and such, this is pretty much the way it'd probably feel, and it definitely looks like it does. Sort of, if you've ever seen these cars in, I guess, footage of them or in movies before, it leans like it should, and it really does feel like it's leaning when you're driving it. Obviously, because we're not hitting absolutely insane speeds, the brakes actually felt very good for this car. I was actually surprised. Usually I kind of dread using these cars because I feel like the brakes, yes, they're old school. They're probably absolutely awful compared to the cars we have today, and it's not going to manage to stop that car in time. However, I found them very, very usable with this car for the speeds that we're going to be hitting. No complaints in that way at all. They managed to stop the car in time and save me from obviously just, I guess, carrying on straight into a barrier and completely ruining my lap. So yep, no problems in that department. So there really is, a lot of positives with this car. If you want a car that's kind of, that typical American muscle car, you've can't really look in any other place. This is one of the, I guess, finest looking cars to ever be made. I guess obviously it's still in production to this day. I believe they killed it off for a number of years. Obviously brought the concept back in the, I guess, mid 2000s, and still to this day it's being made in all sorts of different forms. And I guess this is kind of like just the granddaddy of them all. The Challenger family. This is, I guess, the ultimate Challenger. This is the one, if back in the day you're around then, this is the one you would have wanted. I guess stuff like the, Hellcat and stuff is today. Another plus point of this car is obviously, like I've said many times now, we aren't hitting those insane speeds, so you can actually, with it being so usable, take some time to kind of look around and, enjoy the lap and kind of take it in. Whereas some of these quick cars, you're so on edge, you're changing gears all the time, or, some of the older cars that are kind of all over the place and you're focusing too much on kind of keeping that car under control. This car, just, I guess, the perfect classic cruising car now. Obviously, back in the day, this was probably absolutely top-notch, amazing spec, fast as anything. But obviously, it's, outdated in today's world. But it's to the point now where you can actually, enjoy an American muscle car and actually, take it in properly without being in a complete rush of, oh God, I've got to try and keep this car on the road, because it really does keep itself on the road very, very well. For such an old blocky shape, I genuinely just had tons of fun with this car. So let's get on to sound design, shall we? And I think it sounds pretty good. There's no reason, it's not the best sounding car in the game, but I think for what it is, it does sound very, very nice. It's got that typical American muscle, deep, throaty growl, and that's just what you want from these kind of cars. For me, Polyphony's done a great job in, when it comes to GT7 and its sound design. Some cars could do with, I guess, a bit more of a beefier note. Sometimes it feels a little bit muted, and I guess if you weren't listening to this car, you wouldn't really kind of listen to the engine note. You wouldn't think much of it. However, I just think it sounds great. So, from standard, do I think this car is worth the 300k? Well, to be honest, with the economy we have in GT7 now, that isn't really that much. Maybe when the game first came out and we had all that, stuff kicking off and all the drama, maybe back then I'd have said, no, you need to avoid this car. However, 300k, it's nothing really, and you're getting one of the coolest looking cars, in my opinion, that's ever left a car factory, I guess. I think it's a timeless design. It's the typical American muscle car, and like I said, alongside the Charger at the same time period, they're two of just the coolest cars to ever leave America. Polyphony have pushed the idea that Gran Turismo 7 is all about, I guess, car culture and car collection, And you know, I think it's a solid car to add to that collection. You know, yes, it's not the best on performance, it doesn't really excel at anything, but if you just want that typical American muscle car that you can cruise around in, maybe do some laps and even take part in some of like the, I guess, earlier career events to just kind of, you know, maybe make a bit of money or just have some fun and try something different, then this is definitely a car you should buy. Like I said, I mean, even in standard form, I had a whole heap of fun just cruising around, getting this lap in, and yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised. I mean, I was kind of the assumption that this car would be an absolute nightmare to handle. It would be all over the place. Obviously, I run, you know, manual, no assist, but yeah, I was really, you know, actually surprised. It feels much better in GT7 than it did in, I believe it was in GT Sport as well, and I just remember hating it in that game. And as you're going to see, we're just going to do a little burnout as we go into the next section of the video, but that is going to be your lap. As you can see on board, it is an absolutely awesome place to be. Typical classic looking interior, a good view. Obviously, as you can see, it isn't the fastest thing in the world, and it does require a bit of throttle control, but kind of when you're looking at that dash and throwing this big block V8 around, it is genuinely a whole heap of fun. And I would actually recommend driving this car and cruising around in it in the interior view, because it's just a nice place to be. Yes, it's nothing too flashy, it doesn't look modern, yes, it looks outdated, but there's just something about being in these interior cams of these old, you know, American V8 muscle cars that just feels cool, especially when you kind of see the bonnet and the front of the car kind of raise up as you put your throttle down. I think it absolutely looks, you know, cool as hell, and I definitely recommend kind of going into that view. So overall, we did an 8 minutes 36.5 at 9.5. There's your individual sector times for those of you that want to see that kind of stuff. Obviously, I've kept them in the videos for a long time now after it was recommended. If you want to go up against my times or compare them, there they are on the screen. But where will that lap time actually get us, and what category does this car actually fall in from standard? Let's find out. So as you can see, it falls in the 500 performance point category, where we've actually tested a few cars recently in this last week, and it's going to come out third out of 4 with an 8:36.595. It's slower than the Maserati, which was recently added, and it's quite a bit off the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo. However, it is much older than that car. Very respectable time in my opinion. But don't you worry, the video's not quite done yet. If you can name the game this car is from, then, you know, kudos to you. I don't know, I guess you get brownie points. Who knows? I'm not going to spoil it too much, but a lot of people will know exactly where this car comes from and why I've gone with this livery, this look, and everything else that comes with this car. So I threw as many upgrades on it as possible. I didn't bother tuning it. I didn't feel the need to, because of one little cool feature this car has when you are absolutely pushing it to the limits with maximum upgrades, and it will show towards the end of this part of the video. As you can see, we dove into, I guess, one of the career mode events and thought, you know what, let's go have some fun. And fun I did have. I absolutely loved it. Yes, you'll see this car kicking around, you know, getting his back end out, but that's kind of the character of this car. I didn't want it to be planted and easy to drive. I wanted it to be fast, on edge, and absolutely insane, and it really does kind of change up the feel of this car. And it has an extra added gear, so now it's a 5-speed manual, and that's, you know, exactly what I was kind of hoping for. It makes the car just feel that much better, and even with the standard one, it felt like it just had more in there if it had an extra gear, and obviously that's been put in now, and it really does kind of help the way this car feels. Side exit exhausts are a must, because I think they look absolutely cool. It's absolutely timeless to see a car spitting fire out the side of it, As you can see, we're going to work our way through the Mustang, showing him who's actually the boss as we kick the back end around. And to be fair, one thing to note is this car is very controllable, even when it's, you know, throwing itself around. You can quite easily kind of bring it back, and we're going to overtake the Ford Focus here, and you're going to kind of see what I mean by the cool little thing this car does. And this is the reason I kept the suspension and all the tuning as it was. It's still spinning its wheels up as we're in fourth gear down the straight. I just thought it was absolutely awesome. I didn't actually notice it until I looked back on the replay, but you really do feel it, and you think, why is the car all of a sudden gone really stiff? And it's because it's still spinning and lighting them tyres up, even in like fourth, fifth gear. So an absolutely awesome machine, and well worth, you know, putting upgrades on. It really does kind of change this machine up. So should you purchase this car for 300k? Absolutely. But in my, you know, personal opinion and recommendation, throw them upgrades on. Go have fun with it, light them tyres up, do everything this car is meant to do, and just, you know, enjoy the game. You know, it's all about collecting cars. That's why I make these videos, and it's really cool to kind of come along and enjoy these, you know, classic cars that a lot of people just won't look twice at because they're not competitive, they're not this, they're not that. But sometimes for me, Gran Turismo 7 is all about just having fun and messing around with different cars, and that's why I bring you these buyer's guides. So that is going to be it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Turn them notifications on. Honestly, I've had an absolute hoot using this car, and I'm so thankful for the continued support you guys give me. We're just constantly growing this channel. Thank you so much, and I'll see you all in the next one.